Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of May 20th to May 26th. Now, before we do any type of recap or look ahead, I owe everybody an apology. Hi, how are you doing? For those that don't know, it's been so crazy throughout eclipses and everything else. I feel like I spend every day glued to my desk throughout the months of March and April. And what I've been doing throughout May is I've actually been doing limited bookings on some weeks, and I've been trying to balance this in between weather and everything else. Um, because the whole thing that I wanted to do in the month of May is completely reframe my garden beds. I have a huge garden that I built for myself and my mom. And I've had this vision of how I wanted to change the entire layout so that way I can actually do netting across the top of it and keep everything protected from birds and some insects. um, and I missed our Facebook Live on Wednesday because I lost track of my day. That was day one of a reframing part of my project. I'm actually wrapping that up this weekend, and I'll be able to post some additional pictures. Some of you actually saw the pictures. If you went to my Facebook page, I posted pictures of the progress of what I had done so far. And then of course, where I'm going to be going next. I'll showcase those either later today or tomorrow. I'll show you guys what I've been working on. But because I needed some time to touch dirt and recenter my own energy, I've done very limited bookings. However, we're getting closer to June. That's not going to be the case anymore. And we will have, I will have additional openings and stuff like that to be able to take on more readings. So if you're wanting to schedule a time with me, do it sooner rather than later, because whenever I do any kind of special or anything like that, I get booked up fast. And I get booked up fast because I try to keep my things really affordable, where there are some readers out there that they charge way more than I do. And there's nothing wrong with however they want to charge things, but I've always come from an impact of I want to be affordable all the way through. So for those that are kind of curious as to why my bookings have been so limited or why I've been pushing some of you out, that is why. So, and again, I'll post the pictures of the garden. And I am sorry for missing that Facebook Live this week. We did the Zoom, but I totally missed the Facebook Live. So I apologize again for those that were looking forward to that, but didn't get the chance to get any time with me. So we should be able to pick back up on our regular schedule this week, the new schedule that has been talked about, and that's going to be Tuesday, Facebook Live, Wednesday evening doing the Zooms. So that is the plan to start this week. So again, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we will do Facebook Live. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we will do Zoom. And the goal is that for that to be our schedule moving forward. Okay. Now we're all on the same page. Let's talk about this week, because I've been saying all month that every day throughout the month of May is becoming accustomed to a new normal, becoming acquainted with something, understanding a new kind of energy. But whatever it was going to be was not going to go fast because it's Taurus season. However, Taurus season ends this week. And we're going to start to feel a ramp up in some of the energy. We're going to feel a ramp up in some of the things that are going on. We're going to amplify the new normal, and it's going to start to get a lot busier. Not everybody's going to be prepared for that. Not everybody's going to be expecting that. Sorry about that. But there is a big boom to how the energy is going to progress throughout much of this week. We have a lot of things that are going on this week. We have 3 planets changing signs. We have a spectacular full moon. And we're going to start to see the full effects of how that energy is transitioning something in our lives. What changes have you been making since the beginning of the year? Not everybody has made big changes in regards to night and day moving across the country. Some people have been doing slow transitions. And then whenever we got into eclipse season, we got into that Mercury retrograde, that shakeup was a lot harder than most people expected. But all of that shakeup was necessary to start to prepare us for the new long-term understanding, the new long-term direction, the new normal. Whatever we've been settling into throughout the month of May is going to get louder, it's going to get busier, it's going to amplify as we start to transition into these Gemini transits. You know anything about Gemini, it's first and foremost, it's the twins, takes two to tango, communication, busy words. But one element of all of the planets changing signs this week is going to precursor again an energy that starts to amplify whatever we're talking about, whatever we're working on, whatever news is coming out. It's set to happen for the long term. Now, why do I say that? The first planet to go into Gemini is the sun. Not really worried about him. The third planet to go into Gemini is going to be Jupiter. And that's really going to amplify things. But the second one is the one I'm kind of locked into for this part of the conversation. The second planet is Venus. When Venus enters Gemini, it enters also mutual reception. And that means wherever we're going to have busyness, wherever we're having the spread of knowledge, the spread of communication, the spread of word, it still has a long-term effect because Mercury, the host of Gemini, is going to be in Taurus. It's in Venus's sign. So interactively, what will start to happen after the full moon in Sagittarius, because that's when Venus is going to change signs, is these two will be working within one another, for one another. Any transit that impacts Venus will also impact Mercury. Any transit that impacts Mercury will also impact Venus. And there's an amplification. And I'm going to keep saying it's going to get louder and it's going to get noisier. This week, we start to turn up the volume on something. And whatever we are turning up the volume on, I'm making everybody very clear, sometimes when you turn up the volume too loud, you have distortion. You blow the bass. You do something that will impact the sound. You won't necessarily know exactly what caused it, but there will be some elements of what's getting amplified that we will not be seeing clearly. The negative effect of that, we won't see immediately. It will come later. But that does not take away from the energy that is very hopeful in the moment. And I do mean hopeful. We have a full moon in Sagittarius this week. Coinciding with that full moon, the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, will be going through a conjunction with Venus at the 29-degree mark of Taurus. For many, many people, we've been slowly moving into something, slowly coming into a connection, slowly getting into this place that once we make a commitment, once we move into this direction, once we move forward into something, it will immediately result in something else because the way the transits will move. We will come to terms, come to a settlement, gain our lessons, sign the dotted line, and as soon as we do the signature, as soon as we make the agreement, that agreement will have a long-term effect, and it will again spread into something else, amplify into something else, turn into something bigger. Because as soon as we have the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, Venus is going to change signs. Venus is going to go into Gemini and start that mutual reception. A few days later, Jupiter will follow. Whenever you have the host of a full moon going at 29 degrees, we have conjunctions that are happening at 29 degrees, many people are going to come to some type of commitment, but this commitment for a lot of people will be a closeout. And this is why I say things like settlement. You've been in a legal situation. You've been, having this back and forth, frustrating situation and negotiation and arguments. And finally, you're going to come to some kind of peak. And that peak is going to be an agreement. That peak is going to be an alleviating energy. Because even if it's a court situation, that's going to be an alleviation. We come to an ending. But so many people, I feel like that ending is going to be a level up. That ending is going to result in peace. That ending is going to result in a whole new level of attention and knowledge. And I feel like all of the shakeups, the Uranian transits we've gone through over the last few weeks that expect the unexpected energy between the new moon and Taurus, the sun's conjunction to Uranus, the Venus-Uranus conjunction that happened over this weekend, the weekend that we're coming out of to start this new week. All of that unexpected energy was necessary to allow for that commitment, that connection to be made. We're moving towards something. And for a lot of people, this is going to be a very wonderful week. And the thing that I keep hearing for a lot of people this week is going to feel like divine timing. And for once, I'm going to be nice when it comes to Neptune. Just a little bit, for once. Y'all know how I feel about Neptune. I say it all the time. Neptune's a dick. But when it comes to the energies of this week, we're building towards the exact Neptune-Jupiter sextile, happening again at 29 degrees. Neptune's energy can be spiritual. It can be a blessing. It can have this major level of expansion that's hard to master, that's hard to measure. It's hard to understand. It can fill our senses with hope. But it can also be the things that start to come together, have again a fallacy, have again something that is not clearly understood, and again won't be for a while because of his energy. We're getting closer to something, but only so much of what we're getting closer to, only so much of what we're dealing with, only so much of what we've been doing in this springtime is meant to stick. And I've said this for a while. And when we get to transits later this year and at the first of next year, you're going to hear me say it again. Only so much of what happened back then was meant to stick. Only so much of what we're doing right now is going to stick. We can have illusions of grandeur just as much as we can have divine timing. But I do feel, given the rest of the transits this week, that it is a very fair indication to include Neptune in the concept of divine timing. It is time to overcome something. It is time to heal something. It is time to break out of some area of life where we have been stuck. And again, transition and amplify. The thing about Gemini transits is that it's like frequency, that form of communication and all forms of communication. It's one thing to be in somebody's physical energy and making sure that your vibe matches their vibe. Not all of us are on the same frequency. But the forms and ways that we communicate, whether that has to do with like the internet or our phones or anything along these lines, there's a frequency there. And this is why I keep using the idea of amplify. It's going to get louder and it's going to get noisier. But that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I said, once we get settled into whatever the new normal is going to be, a good portion of the energy as we go through May and June are going to be setting us up for hot girl summer. I know not all of you that listen to me are girls. I get that. It can be hot boy summer too if you need it to be. But this is the energy that we're moving into. something that's going to be busier, more dominant, playful, hopeful, fun for many, many people. We haven't had hot girl summer in a while, guys. Let's get to a point where we're going to start enjoying some of this energy. Because when we get to the end of the summer, things are going to transition. Things are going to change real quick. But this first part, it's good to go. We're in green light energy. We are able to move forward and transition and understand and learn and spread the word and spread the knowledge and talk about what we have overcome. And there will be conversations this week about what we have overcome and what we have left behind. And that comes based off of the connections to Pluto. Whenever the sun goes into Gemini, it will immediately start a trine to Pluto. When Venus goes into Gemini, it will immediately start a trine to Pluto. But they're all moving forward and leaving Pluto retrograde behind. So much of where we're going next is helping us in how we overcome the past, how we overcome the fear, how we let go of the trauma, how we can finally spread awareness and become a different version of ourselves. One that is starting to really become far more comfortable in its own skin. And that'll be something that will start to take shape as we get closer into June. This is a big week, and it's going to lead to things. It's a big week. There's been a lot of energy leading up to this one. And when it comes to parts of this week, we're going to be busy, super busy. And even if you don't have a single thing on your calendar, when we get to Wednesday and Thursday, it's going to show up. You're going to get a call. You're going to have things going on. It's going to get busy. So let's get into the charts. Let's get into the transits. Let's get into Monday, May 20th. I got this at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Why do I have it here? Because at 8 a.m. exactly, but I always do this in the 30-minute increments, the sun is going to enter Gemini. Anytime a planet changes signs, it is the arrival, it is the awareness, it is some kind of news. There is something that's going on. The sun is now in Gemini and Mercury is in Taurus. So again, we're becoming more aware. We're spreading more knowledge about some type of news, some type of situation that's gone on over the last few days, the last few weeks. And a lot of people, whatever you're learning about when it comes to the energy of Monday, some people are going to be very indifferent. Some people are going to be hearing about things they've never heard of before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. In fact, in many ways, because the moon is going to be going through Libra, it's going to lead to some of the promising energy later this week, given that Venus is straddling right between Uranus and Jupiter. So Venus is getting still an influence of Uranus and expect the unexpected energy throughout the day on Monday, but also building into this connection and this promissory energy of its conjunction to Jupiter. This will not go exact on Monday, but we're in this process of building towards something. And whenever it comes to parts of Monday, there will be things that we're not expecting to hear. There will be things that are being met with indifference. It's going to be a little bit of a slower day, but given the way the rest of the week is going to go, we can handle a slow day. And we are still going through this separation of Mars's conjunction to the North Node. If you went through the weekend feeling heavily motivated to doing something or feeling like something's really falling into place for you, that's a good thing. And that was the Mars North Node energy. If you went through this weekend being irritable and frustrating and picking fights with people, that was the Mars North Node energy, because we had this like influx of things of impacting our mind and impacting our ego. And again, some of what we can be dealing with as we go into Monday can still be like a carryover of what happened over this weekend. And it can be being met with indifference, but it can also be met with frustration. And there can be some snippy attitudes, snippy conversations, snippy situations as we go through the day on Monday. But all in all, it doesn't feel terrible. It actually feels like a really slow day, but I do feel like people are going to notice a difference in their energy when we get up on Monday just because of the sun going through Gemini. Now, as the day progresses, the moon's void. So this is the other reason why I'm like, there's not a whole lot going on to Monday because the moon will be void. So a lot of it is just, again, hearing about things that we're not used to hearing about, talking about things that we're not going to necessarily deal with at that moment. And then once we get into the evening time at 5:35 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon goes into Scorpio. I've got this at 6:30. As soon as the moon goes into Scorpio, there's going to be some energies that go back to the last full moon. And this is going to be a part of Monday and Tuesday, what I explain next. When the moon goes into Scorpio, Mars is going over the 15-degree mark. You can see this right here. Between Monday and Tuesday, there will be things that go back to what was triggered during the Scorpio full moon that was squaring Pluto. And some of the things that we were dealing with deep internally, those deep-seated wounds, that deep-seated trauma, the triggers of certain things, we've had a month of processing. We've had a month of dealing with some things. And now many of us are going into a week of where it's going to be actions and reactions. And some of those deep-seated things that we were feeling for a long time that suddenly came to the surface, some of those fears that suddenly came to the surface, we're going to start voicing them and talking about them. They're going to be feeding into our energy as we go through the rest of Monday and Tuesday. This is once the moon goes into Scorpio. Between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m., the moon's going to square Pluto. Again, that full moon that happened a month ago, I have it written down, happened on April 23rd. That was in a square to Pluto. Now we've had the sun moving further away. Pluto has now turned retrograde since then. So part of what was triggered before, we're starting to release and we're starting to overcome. We're starting to move away from. We're starting to take actions to overcome certain things. With the moon square to Pluto, the moon is in Pluto's sign. There's a deeper understanding. There's a talk about how something has transformed. There's a talk about that fear. There's a talk about death. There's a talk about those triggers. And many people are going to be dealing with some kind of delayed disruption in many ways based off of the internal things that start to go on between, again, Monday and Tuesday. This is one part of that. Now, the one thing that I do like is that all week we have Neptune sextile to Jupiter building. It doesn't go exact until later in the week, but we can see it's building. So I do have this sensation that it's time, that divine timing thing again, that it's time to heal. It's time to progress. It's time to move forward. And for a lot of people, whatever is healing is the deep internalized energy that has been brought to the surface, especially over the last month. Okay. Moving this along. We're going to get into Tuesday. Now, Pluto's trine to the sun. It is building all day. We're going to get into the early morning of Tuesday. And we're going to get right there. Okay. Between 8 and 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this at 9:30, the moon is going to oppose Mercury. Now, there's layers to this. While the moon has been going through Scorpio, Mars has now gone over Mercury's point of shadow. Now, that actually happened exact earlier in the morning, around 5:30 in the morning. So I'm doing this a little bit later, but it's like right after Mars goes over that point of shadow for Mercury, the moon in Mars' sign is going to hit an opposition to Mercury. Mercury is now hosting the sun, and the sun is building a trine to Pluto. The conversations and the depth and the weight of the conversations that can be had between Monday and Tuesday For a lot of people, it's going to get triggered either whenever the moon squares Pluto the night before, or right here whenever the moon hits this opposition to Mercury. And we can start to have certain conversations that are a long time coming. We can be talking about what has changed since the week of April 20th, 23rd, 25th, that whole week. April 20th, what happened then? That was the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. That's when it went exact. April 23rd, that was whenever we had the full moon in Scorpio. Oh, look, the moon's back in Scorpio. Isn't that funny? April 25th, that was the end of the Mercury retrograde. And Mars has just gone over Mercury's point of shadow. There's a lot of energy right here that speaks directly to what got triggered right at the end of eclipse season, right at the end of Mercury retrograde, right when we started the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. We've had a lot of things stirred up these last few weeks, unexpected things, exciting things. And now we're starting to amplify them in many, many ways. And we're talking about the things that we've overcome. We're talking about the past. We're talking about how something has transformed and how something has changed. We're talking about how we have changed and where we're willing to go from here and what we're willing to do from here. There's so much internalized energy between Monday and Tuesday that's going to lead to bigger things, but they're necessary conversations at this moment. For some people, whatever gets communicated here is a long time coming. Now, for some people, that long time goes strictly back to that end of eclipse season timeline, what I was talking about. For other people, it was the events and the energy of that week that triggered an even longer conversation, years in the making. I'm not giving an exact timeline on that, based off of what's been happening in people's actual lives. They've been triggered to have certain conversations, triggered to heal certain things. And that can be a lot deeper and run a lot further back. But it's taken time to get closer to where we would address these things. Okay. Oh, the moon will hit the opposition to Mercury again between 8 and 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Mars is going to cross Mercury's point of shadow that happened earlier in the morning. And Neptune's sextile to Jupiter is still building all day. This is the only real big transit. I'm not, and big isn't even that big of a word, but this is the only real transit to Tuesday. But there is some type of necessary conversation or communication. And again, whatever we are communicating, whatever is being taken to the next level, it's going to have a long-term effect. Okay. After that, there's not a whole lot to Tuesday. Moon's in Scorpio all day. We're processing, we're healing, we're dealing with things. And then we're going to get into the 22nd. And I will admit, there's going to be a little bit more of a pickup. And the human effect is, for some people, even the full moon's energy, even though the moon hasn't changed signs yet, because the full moon is on Thursday, we're still building into that energy. And we're building up to things all day on Wednesday. Neptune, Jupiter, and their sextile, it's still building all day. Venus's conjunction to Jupiter will be building all day. And then whenever it comes to the morning time, we're going to have the actual transits. So between 4 and 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, I got this at 5:30, the moon is going to trine Saturn. There's some kind of understanding that we know. Now, this is happening really early in the morning. So some of us, we know, like, first, we have a responsibility that has to be handled first thing in the morning. We have this extra task. We have this thing that we need to do. We are talking to the elder. We're talking to the boss. We know we need to have a conversation with the boss. We just know that there's something about a responsibility, something that we need to do for our elders, something that we need to do with our elders, for our elder, for the boss, for somebody that we see as an authority figure in some way, shape, or form. Like there's some level of additional responsibility that we are understanding and we are aware of. Not a heavy energy, not at all. As we go through the morning, the sun will actually go through its exact trine with Pluto, and that's going to go the most exact between 9:55 and 10:19 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 9:30. Here's Pluto. The moon is in Pluto's sign. Let's be clear about that. Here's the sun. We're building towards a full moon. That full moon is still going to be aspecting this Pluto. So there are energies for Wednesday that are directly a part of the full moon's energy of Thursday. And there is, again, something that needs to be understood. We're arriving somewhere. We're talking about something. We're looking at the condition of something. We're talking about the past. We're becoming far more aware of where we're going from here. And we're starting to release certain things. We're starting to understand our progression. And this conversation does not have to happen exactly on Wednesday morning for that to be a part of the theme of this week. I'm just talking about when the transit is the most exact. But there is something that is meant to be understood. We show what has been transformed. We show where we are releasing the trauma. We recognize where we are releasing the trauma. We acknowledge. And whatever we are acknowledging has a level of showcasing that is going to be illuminated from here. We're more willing to talk about things. We're more willing to express ourselves, because about this thing about the Sun-Pluto trine is it's happening in air signs. Add a layer to that. Add a layer to that. Let's get a little bit further into the day. And the moon is going to hit this opposition to Uranus. Now, this goes the most exact between 2:30 and 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 2:30. You can see it's pretty close. Here's the moon, 23 degrees. Here's Uranus, 23 degrees, 38 minutes. What's funny about this is Pluto. The moon is in Pluto's sign, but Pluto's in Uranus's sign. As much as there can be these deep energies coming from within to the surface, there are also elements of the other recent changes, the other recent events, the other recent excitements that have come through. We've had a lot of Uranian transits over the last few weeks of where we needed to break out of some things, where we've had some exciting changes, where we had some unexpected changes. And whenever it comes to parts of this energy, there is parts of Wednesday that is not just talking about what's unfolding in that moment, but it's also still talking about that past energy. The sun is still in that trine to Pluto. So we are talking about where there have been sudden changes, where we've had excitement, where we have finally been willing to accept ownership, where we're willing to let things go away, where we're willing to heal, how we're willing to heal, and how we're willing to move on from here. Because again, so much of this week's energy is about the timing. It's time to do these things. It's time to transition. It's time to spread our knowledge and spread what we know and talk about how we progress from here. It's time to talk about what happened in the past, where those changes have been. And this is another element that speaks to that. Oh, okay. After the moon's opposition to Uranus, and this goes again, the most exact between 2:30 and 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, there isn't anything that directly happens on the 22nd. Please note how I said that. We're going to get to the 23rd, but I'm going to fair warn everybody about the human effect of things once again. And that is, there are transits that are going to happen on the 23rd in the middle of the night of Wednesday going into Thursday. That means for a lot of people, Wednesday can be a very late night. We might be having a hard time sleeping. We might be up on a very late night phone call. We might be up on a late night, preparation of some sort, because we know we're about to have a meeting that has not happened yet. But again, we're preparing for it. There's a lot of energy that starts right after midnight on the 23rd. But that means the human effect is some people are just having a late Wednesday, not getting a whole lot of sleep, going into the full moon's energy. And we're going to be experiencing some of this next part on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, just to be absolutely clear. So first things first, between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, we have four 4 things happening simultaneously. Quattro, 4. You got it? 4. Okay. So we got a couple things here. 1, between 1:30 and 3:30, we have the moon hitting the trine to Neptune, hitting the opposition to Venus, hitting the opposition to Jupiter. Between 3:09 and 3:47 a.m. Central Standard Time, that is actually when the Venus Jupiter will go the most exact. Hear me out on this. Whatever we're talking about, whatever we're communicating, whatever we're planning, whatever we're working on, whatever is about to come through, it is meant to affect in big ways, a lot of ways. Jupiter is about mass and masses. Jupiter is the doctor, it is the guru, it is the teacher. If people are in like a spiritual position, this is a really great transit for you. If this is in one of your money houses, this is a really great transit for you. Like, be aware of that because there's a lot of things that are starting to come together, but they're coming together at that 29-degree mark. So again, we're in this mode of preparation, of knowing that once we have this meeting, once we make this commitment, once we do this thing, it will immediately go into something else. And for some people, this commitment, this agreement, it is going to be an ending because it's happening at the 29-degree mark. But for a lot of people, that feels like if it's an ending, it's like a settlement. If it's an ending, it's like ending the negotiation and we're signing the dotted line. Are we all signing the dotted line at 2 and 3:30 in the morning? No. And that's why I said the human effect is whatever this is resulting in. For some people, it's going to happen on Wednesday. For other people, it's going to happen throughout the day on Thursday. For some people, it will even carry into Friday. These are the 3 days we will feel it the most exact. This is when the transit is the most exact. Now, at 3:25 a.m., the moon is going to move into Sagittarius. That is also when Venus and Jupiter are going through their exact conjunction. Why does that matter? Because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So a lot of what's coming together is directly impacting this full moon. The completion elements of this full moon, the level up elements of this full moon, the bridging over troubled water elements of this full moon. There is a lot of luck and healing and knowledge that will start to follow whatever is coming into connection through this energy. And we are super hopeful that this is going to go well. That's the Neptune part. Even if we don't know the full elements of where we're going next, it's like, okay, but it's like blind hope. And blind hope goes a lot into that divine timing. It's like we've been working towards something for so long. And now we're starting to get into something where it's going to spread. Again, are we doing everything at 3:30 in the morning? No. The human effect is it's going to happen Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. This is when it's the most exact. Now, Venus's conjunction to Jupiter is most exact between 3:09 and 3:47 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can see this exact. And then the moon is going to start entering its sextile to Pluto, while Venus is going to be separating from Jupiter and going towards its exact sextile to Neptune. So Venus and Neptune are first between 5:45 and 6:04 a.m. Central Standard Time. I got this at 5:30. Here's Neptune, here's Venus. The effects of something, the belief of something, the energy of it, of how it's flooding our senses. And again, because we have all this hopeful energy. If we had those late night conversations, we've had that late night energy, and then you just can't sleep. You're full of excitement. You're full of hope. That's a good thing. The moon sextile to Pluto, which is happening just after that. That's going to be, again, understanding how we work through the fear and how we are changing something and how we're overcoming something. And then at the same time, we're perfecting into the full moon in Sagittarius. Now, the full moon in Sagittarius actually perfects at 8:54 a.m. Central Standard Time. I got this at 8:30. It's close enough for government work right now. Here's the sun, here's the moon, there's Pluto. Here's that Venus Jupiter conjunction in the sextile to Neptune. I got to be honest, guys, this is a beautiful full moon. It is absolutely gorgeous because it signifies both the start and ending of something simultaneously. And it's again going to speak to whatever we are agreeing upon immediately transitions into something else. Whatever we're completing immediately transitions into something else. It amplifies from here. There'll be a lot of healing, a lot of hopefulness, a lot of lessons in this energy. It's a very spiritual full moon. And this is what another reason I keep going into, like, this has got divine timing all over it. Okay. Of course, I'll do a full moon video later this week, so I'm not going to go too deep into that anymore. Whenever we get to the afternoon, what's going to also be interesting, and I'm going to get this to 3:30. I got two things going on here. Neptune and Jupiter's exact sextile goes from 3:16 p.m. to 4:57 p.m. Central Standard Time. Simultaneously, this is when Venus is entering Gemini. In fact, Venus enters Gemini at 3:31 p.m., so it's about to change signs. Whatever we're working through and agreeing on, it's either we're telling more people, the news is spreading, something is getting busier. In some ways, it's almost like too good to be true. In some ways, it can almost be confusing, but we're just seeing this amplification, and it is going to have a big effect. Good and bad energy, but I don't feel like a lot of people are getting the bad unless you're the one on the losing side of the settlement. Like you're the one that has to do the payout. That's the only way I would see that this is going to be bad. But for a lot more people, I feel like there is an awareness here. Now, the one thing about Neptune and Jupiter is like a lot of those can have to do with medicines and health. And if we've been feeling the effects of something, there can be also an awareness of like not just a verdict or coming to terms with something, but there can also be the lessons of the doctor, not just the guru, but the doctor spreading awareness of where symptoms have been building or what's been affecting the body. And if we're having things tied to medical on this day, we're looking at things tied to the liver. Really bad day for blood sugar. I'll be honest, like if you are a diabetic or you have people in your life that are diabetic, this is not a good day for blood sugars. Even if they're not doing anything crazy, they can have spikes in their blood sugar. Or they can be tempted to go for things that will spike their blood sugar. And it will just be like the most astronomical thing. That is a real thing that can be a part of this. The liver, kidneys, parts of the intestines, but also like your voice and your sinuses. Venus rules all of this right here. So if we're having things tied to allergies, be aware of that too. Anything that could like inflame this area or make it expand because of Jupiter's expansion quality. You can suddenly have a swelling in the tonsils, suddenly have a swelling or something spreading in the lungs. That can be another way like the negative impact can be there, because this right here, if it starts to manifest in your health, not every expansion is going to be a good expansion. Let's be clear about that. But all in all, I do feel like this is a good day. I'm just playing devil's advocate as much as I can. At 3:31 p.m. again, Venus enters Gemini. And once Venus goes into Gemini, we start mutual reception. All of the changes, all of the spreading of knowledge, all of the words that come through, everything that impacts Venus is also impacting Mercury, because Mercury's in Venus' sign, mutual reception. They're in a house swap. Every transit that impacts Venus is impacting Mercury. When Venus goes into Gemini, she immediately starts her 3-degree conjunction to the sun. And these two will be building towards their conjunction for the next 2 weeks. There is something that is starting to shift that will get debuted later. There is something that is starting to come together that will have some massive effect that will come to light. You need to be aware of what Sagittarius, Taurus, and Gemini rule in your chart, because they're really transitioning over the course of these next few weeks. and it's being very deeply sparked in this full moon in Sagittarius. Okay, moving this along. Transit wise, there's nothing else to Thursday. However, there's so much energy here. The human effect is going to be a lot to Thursday. And it's not all going to happen on Thursday. For a lot of people, it's even going to be a part of Friday. So let's talk about Friday. We're getting into the 24th. There's not a whole lot in the overnight hours, so that is a good thing. Most of it is going to start to go into the afternoon. So we're just going to get into the afternoon. We're going to get to lunchtime. And between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we have two things happening simultaneously. Now, this is Jupiter's last full day in Taurus, and the moon is in Jupiter's sign. It's in Sagittarius. What we have just become aware of, what we have just agreed to, where we have to make a decision, what we are waiting for the next layer of, what is going to become more of the awareness, and where we're going to be spreading certain types of news, has some questioning involved. The moon is in Jupiter's sign. Saturn is in Jupiter's sign. And again, Jupiter's at that 29-degree mark. We are aware we're not going to be doing something the same way anymore. We are aware something is coming to a close. We are aware something is healing. Neptune and Jupiter are still in their sextile. This has not gone away. This is a big part of the week. But the moon's trine to Mars, while being in the square to Saturn, is talking with an authority figure, with an elder, about a responsibility, about how we can progress from here, how we overcome, what we're doing next. What's the possibilities? And this is not going to all be understood in a single moment. I actually get the impression that many people are going to have to take the weekend to think about some things, and don't be surprised if that's exactly what this energy manifests into. Is I need some time to think. I don't know yet. I don't know what to do. I don't know where we're going. I need some time to think. I would really not be surprised if that is in fact the case. We talk about a couple of possibilities of something. We're talking about a couple of opportunities. We're talking about a couple of situations, but we're not finite grounding onto anything. But we're definitely not staying in the same place that we were a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever. We are, again, far more aware of what our new normal is and where it's going to be. So, moon square Saturn, moon trine Mars. And a lot of this can be a carryover from everything that just came through these last few days, especially if you did do something in the health area. If we've had to deal with some medical things, Jupiter can very much be the doctor as much as he can be the guru, as much as he can be the teacher. All right, moving this along. In the evening time, between 7 and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, what did I say? 8, 7 and 9. I wrote down 8. I know better. Between 7 and 9 p.m., the moon is going to trine Chiron. Now, I like this, knowing that we also have this building trine of Venus and Pluto. We just had a full moon with a trine sextile to Pluto. We just had an exact sun trine to Pluto. We've had a lot of aspects to Pluto, and Pluto's starting to move backwards on some things. Jupiter, again, is at that 29-degree mark. So we're getting very aware of like how we're going to heal, what the care of something is going to be, what the acknowledgement of something is going to be, what the treatment of something is going to be, where something is going from here. And there's a lot of the energy that speaks to Friday that kind of goes to close out, because again, the moon is in Sagittarius all day and Jupiter's at that 29-degree mark. This is the last full day of Jupiter in Taurus. So we are getting an awareness of like how we overcome, how we treat. And also this energy kind of amplifying of like how we never want to hurt this way again. How I never want to feel this way again. I'm never going to let them hurt me like that again. I'm never going to let this thing bother me again. I'm done. And as we go through the energy of the day, like there's this internalized healing effect that's like really speaking volumes. And I like that. I like that for where we're going. I'm hoping everybody's having a good week. Okay, moving this along. We're going to get into Saturday. Now, the moon is going to be in Sagittarius all night. And whenever we get to the morning time, we're going to start to get into some of the other parts of the transits. So, first things first, between 6:14 a.m. and 6:32 a.m. Central Standard Time, that is when Pluto's trine to Venus will go the most exact. And we can wake up feeling better about something, wake up feeling more hopeful about something, wake up feeling like a certain action can take place, an acknowledgement can happen, a conversation can happen. There's a lot of communication that's starting to come through. And we can be talking again about those old wounds and the old trauma. But with Venus here, a lot of this feels like whatever we're talking through, whatever we're overcoming, it's allowing healing in the conversation, because Jupiter's wrapping up over the next 12 hours, basically, its trek through Taurus. So I do feel like we're still continuing this communication and amplifying of how we're going to heal something. Next, between 9 and 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I get this at 9:30, the moon at 29 degrees in Jupiter's sign is going to square Neptune at 29 degrees, also in Jupiter's sign. The effects, the acknowledgement, overcoming the confusion, talking about the treatment, talking about the medicine, coming to terms with the treatment. Let's say that full moon's energy had the medical aspect for some people, and you've had to go in, you had to go get a steroid. And now you're a couple days into your steroid pack and you're starting to feel the positive effects of like, hey, I'm getting my voice back. Hey, I can breathe a little bit better. Hey, this is going on. This is happening. This is better. Doesn't have to be negative. For other people, this can have to do with faith and spirit and timing and the woo-woo and being amazed by how so many things have come together. Understanding the illusions of something, seeing our faith, seeing how something is practiced. And for some people, it might not be this way again. Not for a long time, at least. We're starting to see how something is going to transition, but that transition is not happening right now. In the moment, we should enjoy what's going on, enjoy where we're at, and not feed into all of the confusion. Some people might be getting confused by what they're hearing, but that's just because they don't understand the full elements of what's changing. And that's okay. Not everybody has to understand what you're going through. Not everybody has to understand what you're working on. So, okay. After the moon finishes its square to Neptune, the moon's going to go into Capricorn. And that happens at 10:36 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this 11:30, you see the moon in Capricorn. I have been enjoying the moon in Capricorn for a really long time. I feel like people can, again, talk about their responsibilities, feel very productive, look at where they need to be productive. And considering we've had all of these other changes, that production is going to have a lot of mass to it, because throughout the day, Jupiter is going to finally change signs. At 6:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going into Gemini. Not the moon, I'm sorry, Jupiter goes into Gemini. I got this at 6:30. Here's Jupiter in Gemini. There's no direct aspect. There's nothing going on. It's going to start to build its trine from Pluto. But the thing is, like, this will not go exact this week. This will actually take some time to do. Everything that we're working towards is going towards healing. But this is now another awareness of something new. And that awareness is going to be something that needs to be talked about, will be talked about as the weekend progresses. The human effect is, it can happen on Saturday for some people. It's more going to happen on Sunday. So now we're going to go into Sunday. The weekend's pretty great. There's not a whole lot to it. Not a lot to it transit-wise. It feels really, really good. We're going to get into Sunday. And most of the transits don't even start to perfect until the afternoon. So first things first, between 2:30 and 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to trine Mercury. There's been a lot of things that have suddenly went into Mercury's sign this week. The sun, Venus, and now Jupiter. Jupiter again, a knowledge, expansion, awareness. What does Gemini rule in your chart? What does Taurus rule in your chart? Part of the conversations that's being had, the understanding that's being had, where some people could have been getting met with confusion earlier in the week, this part does not feel like it's being met with confusion. And we're talking about the new arrival, the new beginnings, the new way of doing things, what's going to stick, what's not going to stick. Some people can go through parts of this week feeling very confused, but once you're in the moment, you're not confused anymore. Oh no, I got it. I figured it out. And we have like this recapping energy in some ways, but there's also this understanding energy in learning more about what changes have occurred. Again, the moon's trine to Mercury. We feel that the most exact between 2:30 and 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We bumped this a few more hours between 6:30 and 8:30. We've got the moon in Capricorn, in Saturn's sign, making a sextile to Saturn. The role, the responsibility, who's doing what, how we're doing what. And remember what I said about Friday, that there can be some questioning and understanding about how something is going to progress from here. But I said that there'll be a lot of people that are like, I don't know yet. I need time to think about it. I do feel like whenever we get to Sunday, we've had time to think about it and we've got a better idea of what we need to do. And there's some kind of understanding, again, about the responsibility, the roles, what we're doing next, the treatment, the decision, something along these lines whenever it comes to Saturn, that elder, the authority figure, the boss, whatever it is, we're getting an understanding as to what they're thinking, where they're coming from. And it's going to lead to actions and reactions for a lot of people as the evening progresses. And this would take me into this last transit of the night. Between 9:30 and 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon, again in Capricorn, in Saturn's sign, is going to make the square to Mars. Mars is in its domicile. Many of us go through the weekend and we finally make a decision of the action that we're going to take. And this is where we tell that action. This is where we know that action. For some people, this is not going to be that. But instead, it's going to be a reaction to something. It's going to be a push. And not everybody's going to like a push. And there can be tensions to Sunday evening. There can be frustrations and arguments to Sunday evening. I don't feel like it's going to be everybody. It kind of depends on if you have natal placements that have been highly activated this week, especially in these areas of the sky, this 20-degree area of Capricorn and Aries. If you have placements here, you can feel this a little bit more deeply. But for the most part, I feel like it's an acknowledgement, it's an understanding of what direction we're taking, what actions we're taking, where we want to go next, how we're going to move forward next. And that is going to lead into a lot of the awareness, the knowledge and acknowledgement of where we're going to have a lot more noise the final days of May going into next week, and even more into June, because it's going to get noisier from here. It's going to get noisier. It's going to get busier. It's going to get louder. The frequency is going to turn up. The bass is going to bump a little bit more. Some of us are going to blow a speaker, but it's going to get louder. It's going to get busier, and it's going to get noisier from here. We've all been working towards something. We've all been wanting to accomplish something. We've all been wanting to meet something, meet someone, get into this flow, get into this routine, get into this connection, get into this partnership, get into this new job. We've all been trying to work into something. And I do feel like this is going to be a week that leads into what that awareness is going to be. For my Gemini risings, if you guys have listened to me for a while, I have said y'all are on the delay. In so many ways, you guys have been on a delay in regards to like how things have been working and where things are going next. After these transits start to come into your first house, that delay is over. And be a lot of attention on you guys. And I would normally just say that in the full moon and new moon videos, but I felt the need to say that now. Gemini risings, you guys have been on a very big delay for a while. You've been forced to deal with the past. You've been forced to deal with insecurities. You've been forced to deal with a lot of healing and everything else. And all of a sudden, we're going to be able to make some clean breaks, clean adjustments, and move into something else that's going to help deeply rebuild your confidence. I'm very hopeful for you guys. And I felt like you guys really did need to hear me say that just to you because of all of the signs, you guys have had the biggest delays. We're going to come to some type of an agreement this week. We're going to be given some type of opportunity, some type of information, something that's immediately going to expand and affect a whole different area of our life. Now, for some people, if you have a verdict, that expansion is going to be a very big change in your environment. If you have some type of solution or negotiation or payout or settlement of some sort, then the agreement of that settlement is going to impact that other area of life, especially because Venus and Jupiter, as much as I talked about the medical aspect, that can be a very big luck and finance aspect. And it's like we're coming to a closing agreement, something that's not going to happen again. And it's going to lead to another level of expansion. There is an adjustment. There are changes. We're moving in a different direction. And once we get through wherever we're moving into this week, whatever this final stage of understanding our new normal is, everything from there is going to spread like wildfire. Nothing was meant to happen sooner than it could. This week speaks to divine timing. Next week speaks to spreading the word. Keep your eyes open. Be aware of what's coming through. Be aware of your own energy. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for the new people that are starting to tune in. I hope that this is really helpful for you. Again, I will do a full moon and Sagittarius video later this week. But in the meantime, I hope everyone has a great, fantastic week. I love and appreciate you all so much. Subscribe.